In the first instance we have the logo HmolikC, and as form of presentation, the content of the knowledge of Holmes Molik Candelo, or profile of the knowledge, SDF HmolikC, simplificador of by installments information is at first a mark, with his corresponding title of record in the Department of the Industry of Madrid, Spain, generated content of an event of the knowledge of the profile HmolikC, programmed by conduit of a computerized configuration, saying of another form, a computer program. One of his applications contains the peculiarity of supervising the record of transferences, compromised in the commitment of obligatory fulfillment in the management of cashings and payments. A transcendental note: until this month of July, 2017, no economic scholar, nor the effort of the research team of any international economic corporation, proposes anything that would significantly reduce international debt, or the option of reconciliation of default, in which interest agreements are not compromised. The SDF HmolikC system has not the probability, nor the experimental phase, but, with criterion, the best response that mermaids international external debt between nations, which have banking transfer, payments and charges between them, in contractual commitments at term of 3 years more. At the time, Holmes Molik Candelo mentioned another utility. In medicine, for example, the SDF HmolikC can read all X-ray images, tomography, electromagnetic resonance imaging, electroencephalography, personally to the images, resulting from all resources. I call them a chromatic image, which indicates, if there is a novelty, with strange behavior. The SDF HmolikC, in its approach, produces an algorithmic result imaging names, or equally can say that it puts codified name to the presences known by the traditional study, as the tumors and presences of cancer. Also I mention, that the profile of my knowledge named SDF HmolikC, the offensive reaction can be identified in the focused image, and that it is the mechanism to predispose an organic healthy group, to his formed allocation. We know well that the traditional study has taught us, that the alive matter, it is the animal and vegetable kingdom, emphasizing that they constitute them an organic group, and it is understandable, to explain the SDF HmolikC, I admit that quite all that should be visible, or not visible, has life, because SDF is generated of an event, that it registers in the minimal universal existence, that, on having been stimulated of one or another form, rigorously, can, to evolve, and to happen to be, the minimal universal expression, and it takes identity as the chemical elements taught in the traditional study. Now then, the events contained in a tumor or segregation compromised with a cancer, it has his behavior to feed his stability, the organic group, be the vegetable or the animal, in our punctual case the human being. Also it has, according to the traditional study, an immune resource, which does the function of defense, when there happens this specific event, of a host, of this nature, inside the human body, and it is obtained, an image, in available format to the analysis consistently of the profile SDF HmolikC, it will be obtained, the most ideal. It is not possible to say, probabilities, because, the codification is selectively precise, and it will be the one that is. If percentages are mentioned, it is because the human reader, does not know the language of the algorithm, mentioned of another form, to the diagnosis, it does not have margin of error. The profile of the knowledge in his conference, does a recognition and establishes the type of cancer or tumor, and suggests him the ideal conditions, to do a search of observation, delivery, the causes, the state in real time and the consequences, indicating, since it is necessary to fight, stimulating his own recognition, which this way is as his nature works. It did not call it, the aggressor, as the traditional study, because the operative circumstance of the autonomous presence, host, is to stimulate the generative operator of events, of some of the minimal universal expressions, which find in this organic group called in this case to be human, and to answer symbiotically to the sensation. With this it is says, that it is neither an attack, nor a metabolic distraction, is the beginning of the cycles, permanence, stability, durability, real-time, resolution or NIF of declared minimum this universal expression. The sustainability guarantees the supply of punctual expressions, in quantities that chronologically his nature needs it. If the events change, then, it can be optimized, makes it, the perception, modifying, in the minimal universal existence. SDF HmolikC optimizes the diagnosis. If a good image is had panchromatic, When I write in the profile HmolikC, selective sections, with my own name, and his respective functionality, I am delivering a series of specific areas, the minimal universal existence, and the minimal universal expression, the generative operator of events. It is indicating that if the attentive observer recognizes and if it corresponds to the meaning of the express concept, a new application is appearing sugar in the biochemical and physical science, and to try to diagnose the medicine. Punctually we can take the case of a pathological picture of a human being in state of coma, that the patient is not assisted by peripheral devices that assume the function of one or any more important organ as the heart, the respiratory assistance, transfusion of constant blood. On having diagnosed, it is known, once the specific information is had, that it causes the state of coma, and if it is stimulated, the modifying perception, of the minimal universal, responsible expression, the predisposition of the human individual, is restored, activity that needs the implementation in stated conditions designed by the profile HmolikC. On the other hand, the profile HmolikC finds an applicable event in the communications, named perception spiral. HmolikC understands the formula and of equal weight to identify the program of the memorizing, congregating in a device of reception and diffusion of any genre of communication. The specific function of perception spiral HmolikC is to establish any type of information that the user orders not to import the volume in the device that constitutes the profile HmolikC. The profile transforms the whole content into an understandable expression not major of 81 digits, of the numerical decimal system, information that are constituted in the minimal algorithmic decoding of the communication. This expression, if there is established in a device resolution or of the profile perception spiral HmolikC, being in the North Pole, and the user can note down in a notebook or memorize mentally 91 digits corresponding to the universal minimal expression of the communication. And then it moves to the South Pole, and in this place it introduces the information in another device of the same profile and requests with the number the correct translation, and without incurring margin of error the equal content will be obtained to the original one that is in the North Pole without having to move physically. If one gives him more volume to the information, and the first page of a book is decoded, the perception spiral HmolikC transforms the graphic expression between 18 and 91 digits online. It is the same that if it was the whole content of the book does not import the number of pages, and if the user wants to establish the previous book together with all the books that are in a library, not to import the capacity of space. The spiral of perception HmolikC, it does the same exercise showing a code between 18 to 91 digits. It is the one that moves to another place where a device is of the same profile without being communicated of any form. It will obtain the whole content of the library without having moved not even physically materially the books, and the same exercise for any genre of the systems of communication, writings, images in polychromia, or audible document. Up to the moment the competences in this informative matter, the capacity of volume of the memorizing is very high. Embargo has not found the capacity, of HmolikC, but it is necessary to recognize it, that his achievements are very satisfactory. And in the wide panorama of the robotics of the profile HmolikC he can contribute in applications consisted of precision, in management of automated programs of production and formed administration of corporations. The profile HmolikC suggests the ideal suitability as the logistics that it must provide to him in the information. En el espacio de la revisión de la identidad civil, el perfil HmolikC tiene unión recurso de confianza al 100%. Entrega la más importante información personal, solo suministrando la foto, un número clave, la voz y comprendimiento corporal, con solo la huella digital y el número clave es suficiente, para obtener la imagen de la tarjeta y toda la información personal. Between the innumerable applications that it has, the micro device, conclave of property, which it takes charge being allowed that any mechanical device works, only if his owner or delegate is activating, for example, between so many specialities, a car, wireless telephony, application that can be made by other resources that it is not of the profile of HmolikC, and the results they will be very efficient. These are the applications between so many specialities of the profile HmolikC, which up to the date none of the academic assets in this form, or procedure works and answers equally. academic assets that deserve the maximum respect, because they answer to references of sources of study and the probabilities, have obtained many achievements. The profile HmolikC is constituted in a tool or ideal resource to understand the lecture of the nature in its own language. For major clarity, the human being has to his countable service the natural numbers, but it is not the way of counting the proper nature. It is a very good resource, but it is a design of the human intelligence, and the nature has a countable form that he allows and contributes in his capacity of genetic operation, an order, an organization, a management, a functionality. The most extraordinary of the whole visible and invisible existence, shows that his infrastructure of the countable language, it is its own memory, costs to mention to provide more clarity. If of all the countries, we say that they should be 250, 40 of them they do not take part in a voting, we would have in the system, human bookkeeper, the information, that voted for 210, and they stopped voting for 40, but in the first instance the information is not obtained, of which they were those who did not vote, since in the genetically natural system if this information is provided, a machine, where many mechanisms of devices are, to achieve the reason of being of its functionality, and each of these devices, for example a screw, is codified by the profile HmolikC. After an innovation arises, the profile throws immediately the alert naming in detail, the state in real time,